The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. We've had tons of interest in this presentation this morning, so we're going to jump right in. Just a quick bit of housekeeping before we do. I want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question box. We're going to save them till the end, question and answer period, but you can type them in and we'll get them called out and answered for you at the end. Also, as you may know, we record all of our webinars. So the recording for this webinar will be available up on our website by the end of today. The website, of course, is innovia.com. So without further ado, James, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Abby. Well, thank everyone for attending. Our topic for today is sorting and filtering within NAV. And, today we have options to store huge amounts of data. And when the cost of storage continues to drop, cloud storage makes the process, much easier to hang on to data, since we're no longer looking at, oh, do we need to increase our SAN or server storage, and we just throw it in the cloud and let it sit there. So making decisions of what we keep, what we throw away, is really going to the back burner. And whether it's good or bad, we have the ability to store data indefinitely. So the downside of that is you're going to end up with just an obscene amount of data. And how do you make sense of that data? So what we can do within NAV is that there are tools to help us sort and filter data so that we can reduce that huge pile of data down to something a little more meaningful and help us find what we're looking for to make it a little bit easier. So that's really what we're going to touch base on today is, how can we take all these fields that we have access to, all these lines of data that we have access to, and shrink that down to something more manageable to help us make decisions. Because again, collecting all this data, if we don't use it for any purpose and we're not using it to make decisions, we're not using it to help us run the business, it's why are we collecting all this information? So to get started, the sort keys. One of the nice features in NAV is that it has the ability now to do this sorting. And so if we take a field and we'll just go to the cell to customer name, and we can just click on it, it will sort, and you'll see that it creates this little triangle. And if I click on that, then it will either sort it in ascending or descending order. There's several different ways to do this. I can also just right-click on a field, and you'll see you will get the same information of ascending or descending when it comes to sorting. So just a couple different ways to do it, and it's a pretty simple pulling up something and doing that. So, but by default, it may be sorting on a transaction number or a customer number, and so any fields that you see going across the top, even though those little arrows are not there, once you click on that field, it will make the assumption you're sorting on it, and again in ascending or descending order. So the downside is if you're dealing with huge amounts of information and you end up deciding that you're going to sort on the wrong table or the wrong fields, it may take a while for the sorting to occur, because you could end up with, I'm looking at a table, I pull up a table and whoops, it's got 1 million records in it or 10 million records in it, and I picked the wrong sort. So that will take some time for it to clear through and process. So when we talk about sorting, one of the other things we can do is sort on multiple fields within NAV. So there's a couple things to know here. So one, if I decide we're going to click on the customer name, if you hold your shift key down, you can then click, say, location code, agent code, and you can select whatever number of fields. They don't have to be next to each other. They can be any fields that are on display, and then those fields are going to sort. if I want all of these fields to sort, one of the flip sides of this is that it sorts all in ascending or all in descending order. So I don't have the option to sort the cell to in ascending order, but the salesperson code in descending order. And when you look at this, one of the decisions you have to make is how to do this. So if I want to change the order, because I have multiple fields selected here, okay, by holding the Shift key down and clicking on the field, you will see that it changes all of them from ascending or descending order. One of the things to think about when you're doing this, though, is I'm going to come over here to the shipping agent and click on it. And you notice it's not changing the ascending or descending order format. The first field you pick when you do multiple fields controls the ascending or descending. So, for example, if I take the location code is the first one I clicked, I hold my Shift key, then get my customer, and then I get my shipping agent. It's the location code that's going to help me do the ascending and descending orders, and these other ones will not have the control. One of the things you can do when you do sort is you can decide that I want to look at this on a regular basis. And for an example here, if I sort by my customers, and I always want to see it in this order, then you can save this as a view. And when you save it as a view, you can come back and it will save that sort format. So whether it was multiple sorts that you did, multiple columns, you can just simply save that. And so if we do this, if we come up here to where it says the sales order, you'll see there's a little drop down and there's a save the view as. And if we click on that, and we'll just put my name in here. This tells you you'll have to restart, it will have to redo its thing, and once it does that, it gives just a minute here, and you'll come back and then you'll be able to see that my name is there as a sort option. Okay. So over here on the left, you now see that I put my name there. So now if I want to see that sort again, all I have to do is just click on my name, and it remembers how I did the sort, and I saved it in a view format. So that's a way that you can do that. You can do 10 of these, 100 of these. There's really no limitation on how you want to do it. You just have the option to save this. Now I'm going to switch over to the customers for a moment. Okay. Now under the customers, again we have the same issue. If we're going to save unsave multiple fields, then we're going to say sort on the customer number. We hold our Shift key down to get the search name, and we'll do the say location code and maybe a contact. So again, we do a sort like that. We can also then again save that in a view. Doesn't matter how many of these we've clicked, same feature, and we do a save as. The sorts are always going to save by form. So if you notice under here, we'll do one here, and we'll say that this is customer. And again, we have to restart this. Okay. So now you will see that you have under customers a saved sort option. So this is something you can do, and you can keep these anywhere you want to keep them. and add them to whatever makes your life a little bit easier on. If you want, one of the other options is at times you're going to end up with these and you may wish to get rid of them. And so you do always have the option to remove these by going to the navigation pane, and you'll see them down here, and simply do a remove. So once you've saved the view, you do not have to keep those forever, and if you change your mind, you can either modify or you can simply remove them, and that will provide you new sorts. One of the other options that we have to do is filtering that data. And there's a couple different ways that you can filter data, so we're going to show you some options, and we're going to go back to the sales orders. So within our sales orders, there's a couple different ways to do some filtering. There is a filter window up here, and we could click in there to type in what we want to do to type our filter. You notice there's an F3 here as well. So if you press an F3 key on your keyboard, that jumps you up to that field. One of the other options you have is to filter on values. So let's just say we wanted to sort on DHL. I can just come down here to the field and right-click on it and say, look, just filter on that value. It enters it into the filter window for you instead of type, so you don't have to type it. You can also then decide to use the drop down and the different fields that are available. You can decide where you're going to do the sorting. Now, because this is shipping agent, we want the shipping agent code, which you put in there for us. You also have the option over here to clear the filter. And again, you can clear a filter in multiple ways. I can press the F3 key and simply delete it. I can come up here on the filter and just use this button over here on the far right and clear the filter. So you have different ways of doing the filtering. You can customize filters as well, and you can also decide whether or not you want to see the filter pane. So this is a filter pane that's up here, and you always have the option to either view it or not view it. And just to show you, there's a couple different ways to do extended filtering, which we'll be doing, so showing you some filters on multiple values. But you can also do different ways of a single filter or multiple filters. So, and when you click down here, you also see you have an option to do the advanced filtering, or you can use the arrow over here. So sometimes there's multiple ways to get to the same place and do the exact same thing. Right, so we are going to jump back over to the customers. Okay. So, and on the customers, what we'll do just to show you the filter is we'll do our F3, and we're looking for PS because we're typing a filter in. And since we're typing the filter in, it needs to know what the name of the field is that we're going to filter on. So in this case, we'll go down to a salesperson code, get our tab key, and that will sort on that field. If you remove the filter, of course, everything comes back. If you filter by using the right-click and say filter on a particular value, notice that it changes this field for you. So there's a little bit difference in how that works. If you type in the information, you need to select the field that you're going to do the sorting, the filtering on. If you use the field itself and do the right-click option and ask to filter on the value, then it completes this information for you. Now, the other option you have is to filter on multiple values. So I'm just going to switch over here to chart of accounts. Okay. So on the chart of accounts, we can do multiple fields, and you'll notice I'm just going to get rid of this here. There. So if we're doing a single filter, you're going to see the filter pane like this. Otherwise, we need to do multiple filters, and again, your choices are to use this drop down to expand it, and this will be your advanced filtering. You can also do the drop down here to go to advanced filtering. So two different ways to get the exact same thing. What we're going to do here is you can add as many filters as you'd like. So we simply start our filter here, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to look for an account type. Again, you select your value, use your drop downs, and we'll look, say, at totals. If I want to do more filtering than just totals, I just simply click here and add a filter, and you'll notice it just keeps working its way down. And the next one we'll pick, we'll say the balance. So we're looking for a value, and because we're looking for a value, it's something we need to type. So it would not be something that you would select. So some of the fields that you're going to do filtering on are going to be value fields, in which case you're going to have to say something. So you may say, give me something greater than, $10,000, or greater than, $10 million, or something of this nature to continue your filtering. If you have multiple filters and you want to just clear one out, all you need to do is you have these X's over here, and you can pick and choose to remove the filter. And you can simply just do that, and you can come up here again with this drop down. Say you've created 5 or 6 layers of filters. This would be an option that you can just say, just clear them all, and all the filters will clear. So again, your choice, different ways to do it, that you can clear your filters. Another way that you can do a filter is to do a flow filter, which is a field that's a value that comes from somewhere else, or it's a calculation. And so what we'll do is, again, in the chart of accounts, we can just say limit totals. And when we limit totals, we can then choose on where to go, and we will pick a part filter. Just need to redo that. Limit totals so that we can see that, and you'll see the limit total on the bottom here, and you can add a filter. And so you have budget filters, data, departments, different areas that you wish to choose. And again, you can enter a value for the different departments. So if I wanted to sort on a department and say, just give me everything that's associated with sales, then that is what the filter can do for you. So different ways, different options for you to show filters. And again, you delete these filters just by simply clicking your X button and clearing them out. So we can also then do a search, and let's go over to items. Here we go. And again, we'll end up going to limit totals. And we'll add our filters there. And then here we can do, again, a filter. And our filter there will be when the location, again, has a particular value. And say we say green for this. And we'll have that data sorted. Again, remove your filters, click your X, or go to your action items here, and you can clear your filters on this, and that will give you another option. Another way to do some filtering is when you're looking for trying to sort huge amounts of data, and you're trying to figure out exactly where to find a specific item. So if we go over here to the general ledger entries, we have an enormous amount of information here. And if we're trying to filter things down, then we have the option to do different types of filters and work our way to say, how do we minimize this information to give us exactly what we're looking for? So if we say we're looking for a posting date, we can put in our own dates, for example, and then we can continue to say, okay, I want everything from that posting date, but I've got a document type, and I'm only looking for invoices. And then, now that I have all my invoices, here, of course, our list is relatively short, but we can also then continue to go down and say, well, I'm just looking for very specific invoices, so I want invoice 108010. And so very quickly, when you're dealing with huge amounts of data like the general ledger, you can start filtering it down and picking these options to say, minimize that data, get me down to something quick. So now I have something to look at, something to view, and something I can help to make decisions on. And again, we'll clear all these out simply by running the clear filter. Or if this is something you're going to use on a regular basis, let's just say we remove this last one and you're looking for a posting date, then you can simply do this. And again, remember, you can always do a save view, and that will save the views of what you're trying to look for. There's also a couple little things that you can do when you're doing filtering that are helpful. There's a little kind of a little cheat sheet. There's a little notes on that you can use shortcuts. So when we're looking for filtering, and I'm just going to clear all this filtering out. And so if I come up here to this filtering thing, there are things you can do, like if you put in a W into the filtering, then that tells you the current work date. There's also, if you use the letter T, that would be today's date. So I want to see everything for today's date. And then if we're talking like a closing date in the ledgers, we can also do a C, and that will give us a closing date. So there are different ways to do that. I do have that information in a little cheat sheet, and what I can do is post this to the website. Abby certainly can help me do that here. But these right here are symbols that you can use and shortcuts you can use so that when you save some of these views, so if I save a view with the current work date, I don't need to go in and change the date every time. I will have a W in there. So those are little things, and these are little notes and shortcuts that say, hey, here's how I can do filtering. Here's how I can use little shortcuts to make it a little faster and make the process a little bit faster. So very quickly, that's kind of what we're talking about for filtering and sorting. These little tips will help you. Save them as views. The views will be helpful because generally if you're filtering data, it's, hey, I'm looking at the same thing on a regular basis. Every time I come in to look at customers or sales orders, I always want to know what's open, what's past due, or what's by a route. I want to look, what am I doing for shipping for DHL or a particular carrier. And so I've seen people even create views that say by carrier. I've got one through FedEx, I've got one through DHL, and I just want to really quickly see it and save myself the steps. So by creating those in views and having them over here on the sidebar in these menus, it just makes it faster to get that information. So with that said, I'd like to say that's basically our basic introduction into sorting and filtering. I certainly would be open to questions.
Okay, great. We do have some questions here, James. I'm getting them up right now. Our first question, is the send to Excel on all screens in this version, or this person is still on NAV 4.0?
Yeah, with when we get to 2015 and 16, you will see this Microsoft Send to Cell on virtually every single screen. So if you're not used to sorting and filtering, or you want to take this data and do something different with it, you can always send it out to Excel and then spin it, chart it, graph it, or do whatever if you're very, very comfortable with Excel. So you will see with the full integration into the Microsoft Office suites, you will find this link to Excel. I believe it's everywhere. So I want to say virtually everywhere, just in case there's a spot or two that it's not there.
Okay, our next question, why can't we save some views, such as the planning worksheet?
That's a good question. I will have to look that one up because we should be able to save on virtually everything. There are some places where, because the information actually comes from multiple other spots and that they are calculated fields or reference fields, that it would not work. But specifically on the planning worksheet, we certainly will find an answer on that, but I believe that's probably why.
Okay, great. So we'll send out an email on that one.
Right.
When sorting multiple columns, can one column be ascending and the other column descending?
No, that is one of the interesting things when we get here, is that once you select the columns that you wish to sort on, and okay, they all either go ascending or they all go descending. There's not a choice to send, this I want this one in ascending one, this one in descending order. They all need to go one way or the other. So let me just get to the customers, because that's here we go. So if you pick these, unfortunately, what happens in Microsoft is they all either go in one direction or the other.
Okay. Our next question, once a sort view is created, can it be deleted?
It can. Sort views can be deleted, and simply as we see them over here, and if we open a customized navigation pane, you will see an option to remove it. We're running a little slow right now. There we go. And if we scroll down here, you'll see that this is the view that I created. And if I just click remove, that will remove it. And we say OK. And then it will have to do its restart to refresh the screens, which will take just a moment. And then that will go away. So you can remove those once they've been created. So if they're not needed anymore, you certainly have the option to remove them.
Okay, and I have one more question here. Of course, reminding everybody, if you have any questions, type them into that question box. But the last one I have right now, can I save filter view similar to a sort view?
And you can, anytime you create a filter, for example, if we're just going to filter here on this field, then you can save that as a view. So as you arrange this, you can always save, and it's just not with sorting and filtering, but once you have this view or the screen to look the way you want it to look, you can always do a save the view, and that will save, and that will put it over there in this left side under whatever name you call it. So make sure you call it something that identifies what it's doing, and that view will be there for you. And you would remove it the same way you would remove a sort view or any other custom view that you've created.
Okay, I do have another question. Do the save views persist between companies or different databases?
The view is specific to the form, and it would not cross databases. I don't know if it crosses companies, but it would not cross databases.
Okay. David, we'll get an email back to you on the answer on that. And that looks like all the questions. So if anybody has any more questions, type them in. Meanwhile, I will remind everyone that we have recorded this webinar. We're going to get it up on our website by the end of the day, which is innovia.com. And James, that looks like everything on the questions. So thank you so much for the presentation.
Well, we thank everyone for attending. We'll get the answers to the couple questions out as quickly as possible here, and we thank everyone for their time.